What's up, everyone? Welcome back to another review. This time we're taking a look at Coming to America, the sequel to the original Coming to America. Yeah, the title for this movie is completely stupid. Alright, this movie is directed by Craig Brewer, with the return of Eddie Murphy and Arsenio Hall as Prince Akeem and his loyal servant Semi. Now, the sequel to Coming to America takes place 30 years after the events of the original movie, in which we find out that Akeem has now become king of Zamunda after the passing of King Joffrey Joffa. And in so doing so, he realizes that he must find an heir to his throne, and it just so happens that he unknowingly fathered a child in Queens during his first visit to America. Now he must go back to America to find his bastard son, as he calls him. And yeah, that's the overall story of this movie. It's pretty much the same as the first movie, only it's in rotation. Instead of Akeem learning about American culture, it's Akeem's illegitimate son learning about Zamundan culture. And I'm just gonna say it like this. I will stand by the fact that I thought this movie was entirely unnecessary, did not need to be made. But with that being said, I thought it wasn't that bad. I actually thought the sequel to Coming to America was overall okay. It was a decent movie. Comparing it to the first movie, this sequel will definitely not have anywhere close of the longevity as the first movie. Nothing about this sequel to me is going to resonate with anyone in the decades to come. Mainly because this just feels like a modern day movie. It doesn't have that charming quality that John Landis brought to the original movie. This movie feels too modern. The jokes are too modern. The acting is too modern. Everything about this movie is modern. And the thing with modern humor, especially modern comedies, is that the majority of them, they're just gonna fall by the wayside. Especially a movie like this, to a very, very popular movie from the 80s, the late 80s. I don't see this movie having the longevity of that. I mean, it's not to say that there's bad things in it, because there's not. This movie did have things that I overall did enjoy. You know, Eddie Murphy and Arsenio Hall, they go right back into the roles of Akeem and Semi as if they've been playing these characters for 30 years straight. I mean, they're fantastic together in this movie. Seeing them play older versions of these characters is a lot of fun. You know, Akeem now becoming a king, he has more responsibilities. He has more of the burden of being a king, and it kind of changes his personality a little bit. And as the movie progresses, you know, we come to see that one can say he's falling under the pressure of being a king and having to abide by the Zamundan laws. And I thought Eddie Murphy did a fine job at portraying the older version of Akeem. I thought it was good. I will say this, I don't think Semi gets enough screen time in this movie. I think Arsenio Hall in this movie, he's kind of wasted a little bit. I mean, yeah, the scenes that Arsenio was in as Semi is fun. And the scenes, and of course, the bringing back the characters of Clarence, Morris, and Sweets, and Saul, the barbershop, seeing those characters in old age was a lot of fun. And their updated dialogue, talking about guys like Conor McGregor and Floyd Money Mayweather. Yes, these guys, after all these decades, are still boxing fans, still having boxing debates, and it's fun. But unlike the first movie, I don't think we got enough of these characters, because I can watch an entire movie based on these barbershop characters. That's how entertainingly fun they are. We also got an appearance from Reverend Brown and Mr. Randy Watson at the end. Two of my favorite characters from that first movie. Fun seeing those characters. Like, seeing the side characters was more fun than seeing the main story characters. Mainly because, overall, the main story is just the first movie done all over again. You know, the actor who played Lavelle, King of King's son, he was okay in the role. He's not the world's best actor. I thought his acting could be a little bit of but it is what it is. He was okay. He had decent on-screen chemistry with Eddie Murphy to the point where I can buy them as being family members. So that was okay. The addition of Wesley Snipes as General Izzy from a rival nation, I actually thought that concept was actually pretty interesting with the whole idea. And I like how they actually tied it back to the first movie, where the princess from that first movie this is actually her brother, the original princess that Akeem was supposed to marry, and he pretty much left acting like a canine. So we actually get to see Prince Izzy, General Izzy is pretty much her brother, and he is in a war he's pretty much wants to start a war with Zamunda, and his nation is called very cleverly called Nextdoria. Whatever. But I thought Wesley Snipes overall, I liked him as General Izzy. I liked the rivalry that was developing between Izzy and Akeem. I think the payoff is completely dull because I was expecting Izzy and Akeem to have a little bit of a comedic fight between themselves, but instead, no. I get Akeem's three daughters and Semi fighting off General Izzy and his men. And then all of a sudden, Izzy and Akeem are best friends at the end of the movie. So the entire movie, Izzy is threatening Akeem, telling Akeem, "Your son must marry my daughter to the United Nations, or else the moon will be mine." Oh. And then all of a sudden, hey buddy, let's do some trading, Rose. What happened, man? Like he gets his ass kicked, and all of a sudden now he's a good guy. I didn't like that. I thought Wesley Snipes was a lot of fun, but I didn't like that at all. Another thing I didn't like. I am not a fan of Leslie Jones as an actress. There's something about her I just can't connect with. I don't know if it's her sense of humor or just her personality. There's something about Leslie Jones as an actor and a comedic talent that it just doesn't resonate with me. I do not find her funny whatsoever. And in this movie, she's in this movie, none of her jokes landed with me. I just think she's too obnoxious for my taste. I don't like Leslie Jones. Nothing against her personally, but as a talent, she just doesn't connect with me whatsoever. I think her humor is just not my cup of tea. And I actually think she's a weak link, and I actually think her character took away from Tracy Morgan's character as Lavelle's uncle. Tracy Morgan is a very funny guy, and this movie gave me an on-screen comedic duo that I didn't know I wanted, and that is the duo of Arsenio Hall and Tracy Morgan. Whenever these two were just bickering at one another, I could not stop laughing. Just seeing the untapped potential that Arsenio Hall and Tracy Morgan have makes me want to see a movie with these two in it as co-leads, because I'm all in for an Arsenio Hall Tracy Morgan team-up movie, because what I got in this movie, I couldn't stop laughing, and I actually thought Tracy Morgan as Uncle Reem was utterly hysterical, bringing that Queens, New York personality to this really well-groomed African nation. I thought that was hilarious, and I enjoyed that. And I can watch a whole movie with Arsenio Hall and Tracy Morgan just insulting one another in creative ways. This movie gave me that in spurts, and I wanted to see more. Instead, you give me more Leslie Jones, and I don't want Leslie Jones, because I don't find Leslie Jones to be all that funny. In terms of returning characters from the first movie, Paul Bates returns as Oa, and he got old. James Earl Jones returns as King Joffrey Joffa. He is in maybe 2 minutes of the movie, and then his character dies. Another thing. Another thing. I just lost my train of thought. Oh yeah, James Earl Jones is in it for like 2 minutes, and then that's the end of him. We get cameos from Louis Anderson and John Amos. They return as the McDowell's employees, and actually, Amos and Murphy, they actually have a pretty cool scene near the end of the movie where Cleo acts like a father figure to Akeem, which I actually thought was a nice moment, and it actually inspires Akeem to go to America to find Lavelle after Lavelle overhears Akeem and the general having a conversation about how Izzy thinks that Akeem is using his son as a prop, and this of course ignites Lavelle to flee to America with his hair groomer, who he has fallen in love with. So yeah, I thought all that stuff was okay to itself as well. From an overall directing standpoint, movie's well shot for the most part. It looks fine. The sets look good, though not as grand or spectacular as they were in the first movie. I just think in this movie they look pretty much okay. The scenes of Lavelle training to be a prince, I actually thought was very, very entertaining. But though I think the song choices were just too modern, too poppy for my taste. And the overabundance of celebrity cameos in this movie was unnecessary. We got Morgan Freeman, Motombo, In Vogue, and Salt and Pepper making cameos, and why? That's what I have to say. Why we would have all these cameos like Morgan Freeman? I am fine with that. I actually thought it would have been clever if Morgan Freeman was cast as great Joffrey Joffa. I think that would have been cool, but no, he just appears as himself. But, I do like the ending about how, there's this whole subplot where the Keem's daughter wanted who was being broomed for queen, but now she's being brushed aside for her brother. I thought that whole subplot was okay. It's just that typical modern day thing of overexerting certain political agendas. Like, why can't the queen? Why can't a queen just rule on her own? Why's it always got to be a king? It's that really boring Hollywood thing that's really starting to show it's becoming completely unnecessary. And I actually don't like it at all. I mean, in the end, Akeem ends up, bestowing her the heir and has made his son the American ambassador. Okay, whatever. As long as I don't get another movie, I'll be okay with it. In terms of just references, I like the fact that they bring in a relative of the Duke. This movie continues the lineage of the Duke brothers, which is great. Now we get to see their great great grandchild. So I like played by Colin Yost, whatever. But I do like the reference to trading places with the Duke brothers, and we get a nice little reference to that with a portrait painting. We also get a nice little reference to the great Marge Sinclair, who played the Queen from the first movie. Of course, in real life, she had actually passed away, but we get a nice touching reference to that. And I also like how her message from the first movie inspired Akeem to go after his son and to go find his son in America again. I thought that was nice to itself as well. So like, yeah, this movie did have some good moments to it, but overall, I'm just gonna give it a 6.5 out of 10. If you like the first movie, yeah, okay, I'll recommend it. Just see what happens, but it's not really a movie that was necessary, to be honest with you. So yeah, 6.5 out of 10 for Coming to America. Let me know your thoughts in the comment sections down below. Like the video and subscribe, and I'll check you back next time for more.